is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it.
Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And finally, the Philadelphia Union have picked up a victory at Subaru Park. Waited, almost a month, right? Almost a month, maybe a little bit over a month. Last win came against New York City. But man, happy to see people come out to the stadium, even though the Eagles were playing at 1 o'clock. I knew that the stadium was going to be maybe like 50% full, maybe a little bit more. So for everybody that came out, I was super excited to see people come out and cheer on the boys in blue. For people that went to the Eagles game and then made their way to the Philadelphia Union game, props to you guys for making it there in record time. Maybe nobody did that, but I definitely saw a lot of people in Eagles gear. But for people that just went to the Philadelphia Union game as opposed to the Eagles game, I guess you guys made the right choice going to the Union game. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into news. We're going to go ahead and talk about that Orlando City Philadelphia Union game. We're going to go ahead and talk about Blunder of the Week. And definitely have some things to complain about. And then I also want to look at the 7 teams that are in the playoffs as of right now in the Eastern Conference. Tell you guys the remaining games they have left. Tell you what I think the Union need to do to make sure they get into the playoffs. But before we get into news and everything, I do want to say, so it will be this episode and then the Atlanta United preview. Whether or not I get somebody on to preview that game, yet to be seen. Maybe I'll bat 0 for 3 and again, not get somebody to come onto the podcast. But if I don't, I would definitely review that game on my own because afterwards, I will not be recording a show for a week going on vacation, which led me to an idea. If any of you guys listening to the podcast wants to host this show, do a review episode of the Atlanta United game, or if you want to do a preview episode for the New York Red Bulls game, all for it. I'm all for it. Get in touch with me on Twitter at FreeKickPod. You can email me at the Freekick Podcast. No, wait, it's at freekickpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, if you guys want to do a preview episode of New York Red Bulls or a game review for the Atlanta game, yeah, get in touch with me. And I'll let you guys host it. All you got to do is send me the audio files. I'll edit the show and everything, post it to the podcast feed. So honestly, if nobody wants to do it, that's cool. If somebody's like, oh yeah, I want to host a podcast, then hey, don't worry about playing the music and everything. I'll add that all in once I edit the show and everything. So if that's something you want to do, get in contact with me and I'll give you a little bit more information. The only thing I ask is that you do the hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. You're insert your name just so I can align that out with the music. But then whatever you want to do, it's your show, you're hosting, so go ahead, do your own thing. But again, if nobody wants to do that, then it's totally fine with me. But like I said, have news, have the Orlando game I want to talk about. A lot of things to get to. Thought about doing questions, but I'm like, man, I haven't done an episode in a week? Definitely a week, maybe a week and a couple of days. So I was like, there's a lot to talk, a lot that I want to discuss. So I won't take questions for this episode. So let's just go ahead straight into the news. All right, so starting off with the Seattle Sounders. Their attacking midfielder, Nicolas Lodeiro, underwent surgery this morning. Monday, I'm recording this episode Monday night. So he went through surgery on Monday in Chicago to clean out his right knee. Brian Schmelzer, the head coach for the Seattle Sounders, announced. He says that he'll be back this year, but doesn't have a more clear timeline behind that point. Now, the reason I bring this up is Now, I know a lot of you guys are like, oh man, I don't even think the Union are going to get that far in the playoffs, let alone they might not even make the playoffs. I know they sit in 7th. I'm not that far with some people like, oh, the Union aren't going to make the playoffs, so definitely make the playoffs. But this is definitely something for Union fans or just if you're a fan of MLS to keep an eye on. I mean, Nico is one of the best players for Seattle. I know they have whereas Diaz, who I would argue is probably their best player, probably the best striker in MLS. Dude's killing with Seattle. He has the last couple of seasons for Seattle. Christian Raldon's played excellent for Seattle this season. But when you lose a creator like Lodeiro, it's a hard player to try to replace. So it seems like no matter who Seattle loses, look, there was a game, earlier this season where they had to play a homegrown player in every single position but Ruiz Diaz. Now, I guess that just tells you just how good the young kids are that, everybody on that team steps up. But nonetheless, just losing a player like Lodeiro, that's hard to replace. So it's something to keep an eye on because when he does come back, is he going to be 100% for getting that knee surgery on his knee to clean out whatever the issue was? Now, I guess the good thing is if you're a Seattle fan that Brian says that, he'll be back at some point this season. But, I mean, getting surgery, I mean, it's not going to be what it once was, right? You gotta recover from that and everything, get used to running again. So, like I said, just something to keep an eye on for a Philadelphia Union perspective. And just for MLS as a whole, will that affect what Seattle does in the Supporters' Shield race with New England? Maybe it does nothing. Like I said, people all season long have stepped up for Seattle when people thought that they would just drop off. Moving on, though, staying in the West, FC Dallas have announced the departure of Luchi Gonzalez as head coach of the club. Gonzalez took over as head coach of FC Dallas in December of 2018. He led Dallas to the playoffs in each of his first 2 seasons in 2019 and 2020. He had a record of 28 wins, 29 losses, 25 draws in the regular season as the head coach, including a 6-11-9 record in 2021. Now, Lucy was a great academy coach for FC Dallas, was prominent in developing players in that academy for FC Dallas, and eventually he got the head coach job and couldn't work his magic like he did in the academy, as FC Dallas fans were hoping that he would do with the first team. So I don't know. Will Gonzalez get another chance coaching a team in MLS? We shall see. But if a team wants to bring him in to coach the academy, they're getting an excellent academy coach in Gonzalez. So FC Dallas going to be looking for a new head coach. I've got to imagine that they're just go with their search at the end of the season. There's basically 9-10 games left for most teams in MLS and playoffs are here. Dallas, it would take a miracle, I think, for them to get into the playoffs. But I mean, the first coach has fallen in MLS, and a lot of people thought it was going to be Phil Neville or Raphael Wicki, and it was neither one of those coaches. It was Gonzalez from FC Dallas. So there we go. I'm sure a lot more coaches will fall out of line. Actually, I lied. He wasn't the first coach. That was Chris Armas with Toronto. So the second coach, right? Maybe there was a third, but second. It was definitely Chris from Toronto. Chris Armas was the first coach to get sacked this season. Moving on, though, with Philadelphia Union news, Kacper Przyblko and Jim Curtin were named to Team of the Week for Week 26 in MLS. Kacper, obviously, with 2 goals against Orlando, and Jim Curtin got the boys to play well. They played well against Club America, and like I said, the last win at Subaru Park came against New York City, and a great performance by the team against Orlando City. More on that a little bit later. Kacper, if you guys are keeping track at home, if you're not, I got you covered. He is now 3rd on the list of top goal scorers in Union history with 31. Jamiro Monteiro is now 5th all-time in assists for the Union with 20. So, I mean, look, these guys have been with the team for 3 years, and they've been big contributors for the Union, and the longer these guys stay around, the longer that, we kept on to the core guys that we had in 2019. Yeah, we're going to see these guys' names just creep up in some of these record books. They're going to go farther and farther up those lists. So to see Jamiro crack in the top 5 and Kacper now moves into third, like I said, with 31 goals all time in the regular season for the Union. Great achievement for Kacper, and why not go ahead and talk about that Philadelphia Union versus Orlando City game. Like I said, it ended 3-1 to the Philadelphia Union. And overall, look, I think that's a great game from the Philadelphia Union. Huge 3 points that we needed. We absolutely needed those 3 points because, one, we were at home. And two, Orlando City are ahead of us as things stand right now in the playoffs. Now, granted, they've played one more game than us. So if we win that game, then we're going to go ahead and jump Orlando City. But if you go ahead and look at the table, everything in the East is just so tight. And even the teams that are currently out of the standings, you have DC United, who are on 34 points. They've played 25 games, where us, the Union, we've only played 24. So, yeah, we can go ahead and still make some distance. But I don't think DC United are out of it yet. Inter Miami, the last couple of weeks, they've got hot. They sit in 9th place with 32 points. They played 24 games. So if they win their next game, they could go ahead and leapfrog DC United. So things are really, really tight. I guess you can't call out Columbus yet, even though I don't think Columbus are going to get into the playoffs. But if you look, New England's running away with it. And then after that, you have Nashville, New York City. Nashville has 41 points. New York City has 38 for Orlando. 37 for Montreal, 36 for Atlanta, 35 for the Union. Things are really, really tight. Nobody, in my opinion, is going to catch New England. But yeah, I mean, to get second, third, it's definitely in play for the Union or just any of those teams that I mentioned. Even DC United into Miami could creep up into a 4 or 5 spot into the playoffs, where DC United, they have 9 games left to play. Where you look at Miami, they have 10 games left to play. The Union have 10 games to play. Atlanta have 9 games to play. So I would definitely go into that a little bit more. Like I said, I'll tell you guys how many games left these guys have at home, on the road, what the record is at home and on the road, and what I think the Union need to do to get either the second or third spot in the playoffs. But look, just going back to that Philadelphia Union versus Orlando game, just a great response from the team after they got knocked out of the CONCACAF Champions League by Club America. It was nice to see Jim Curtin throw out the same team that he did against Club America on last Wednesday. Where, look, at times Jim Curtin can be way too loyal to his team, to his players, which can definitely be a bad thing. But I think they definitely deserved another chance because, look, this lineup didn't get a goal against Club America. They could have got a goal on the penalty kick, but I don't want to talk about that game. I know I didn't do a review episode of that game. Really didn't want to talk about the craziness that went on after the game, even though, spoiler alert, that is going to be Blunder of the Week. I just did not want to talk about that game. We will talk about that for Blunder of the Week, though, here in a little bit. But look, I mean, Jim knew that these guys had a goal in them. And that's exactly what they did against Orlando. Kai Wagner comes out, gets a goal in the first half. And I know Orlando fans or players and even staff for Orlando City were heated that the goal was given because of the foul by Kacper on Schlegel. But after the game, pro referees came out and had the following statement on that challenge by Kacper on Schlegel. They said, 1, the assistant referee raised his flag to indicate an off-the-ball foul by Kacper Przyblko of Philadelphia Union. However, Orlando City then gained clear possession of the ball and began to counter. The referee therefore applied advantage and allowed the play to continue. Orlando then lost possession of the ball. However, because the advantage had been applied, there was no opportunity as per laws of the game to return to the original free kick. The VAR checked the foul by Przyblko for a possible violent conduct red card, but did not identify a clear and obvious error in the non-issue of a red card. Because Orlando had gained clear and obvious possession of the ball after the foul, the attacking phase of play had reset when they went on to their counterattack. Another attacking phase then commenced when Philadelphia Union regained possession of the ball prior to scoring. The foul by Przyblko was not in the attacking phase of the play leading to the goal scored by Philadelphia, and as such, the VAR could not intervene in the aspect. Now look, I mean, the referee, Jim Curtin even talked about this after the game and said that he thought that the refs got it 100% right, where the linesman immediately raised his flag when Kacper fouled Schlegel. And the Alan Kelly, the head ref in the center circle, overruled him, said, look, Orlando has the ball. They're going on their counterattack. The Philadelphia Union just had a free kick opportunity. They have a lot of guys push for it. Here goes Orlando City on the counterattack. They could possibly score here, so I'm going to overrule you. And because of that, what Kacper did to Schlegel is automatically ruled out because Orlando City is going on that counterattack. They had possession of the ball. And it's not the Philadelphia Union's fault that Orlando City completely botched that counterattack, and Kai Wagner won the ball right back for the Philadelphia Union. And now they go down and march in, and they get the goal with Kai Wagner. It's not the Union's fault that Orlando City turned the ball over. And VAR, because of the laws of the game, they couldn't go back to the original foul. So I'm not really sure what Orlando City players, what the fans, what people on their staff are complaining about, because it's the laws of the game. Now, yeah, we would probably be annoyed if that happened to the Philadelphia Union. Like, I know a lot of fans were upset when Galese didn't get a red card when he took out Sergio Santos when Sergio looked to be one-on-one. I was completely fine with the yellow card. I even said this to my sister when people around me were like, oh, it's a red card. How isn't that a red card? Go to VAR. It was obvious to me that Sergio Santos was far right of the goal where he wasn't near the goal. So it was like he's not going towards the goal. He's going away from the goal. How can you give a red card to Galese when Sergio is going away from the goal? Now, I get it. He's one-on-one with a goalkeeper, but Sergio wasn't going towards the net. So I was like, yeah, I don't see how this is a red card. Now, yeah, you think automatically, yeah, because it's a one-on-one situation that's an automatic red card. But Sergio Santos took a heavy touch, which took him away from the goal, which therefore it didn't seem like it was going to be a clear and obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Now you guys can say, yeah, it would, because Sergio would have got by Galese and nobody would have catched Sergio Santos. But I'm not sure about that. I'm really not sure about that. And so I agreed with Alan Kelly giving the yellow card, even though everybody in that stadium was like, oh, that's a red card. That's a red card. So it's my two thoughts on the incidents, one with Kacper and one with Galese of Orlando City. Orlando City fans, you know, you can't change their mind. You can't change your opinions. You can't even change the staff's opinion, apparently, because they know soccer. We don't know soccer, and that's the end of the story. That's all you need to know, really. That's what Roger Martinez, I think that was his name. Maybe that's completely wrong. I don't know what his name was on social media. That's how much I cared about the dude. All I know is he was a staffer for Orlando City. Apparently, he used to work for the Philadelphia Union as a social media manager, and he told everybody that he knows the game more than what we know the game. So that's all you need to know. Orlando City created soccer. They have more history than the Philadelphia Union. They're a better team than the Philadelphia Union. So everything that happened on the field, it didn't really happen. Orlando City won the game. But going back to a more serious thing, Bizo, I thought on the day he was good in whipping in crosses in the middle of the box. Now, as the game went on, he got better with crossing the ball because his first couple crosses, I thought they were way short. They were low, they weren't high, and maybe that was the game plan because you saw like 2 or 3 of those balls that Bizo put in where they were short and they weren't high crosses into the box. It was like he wanted the attackers to chest the ball and bring it down that way as opposed to heading the ball. But then as this first half went on, then he was crossing the ball a lot better. And Corey Burke 100% should have made contact with the ball. Probably should have scored. He gets beat to the ball. Ball falls to Leon Flock, who has to rush the shot because the Orlando defenders are rushing at him fast. Look, it's Leon Flock. He's not going to offer you anything offensively. If he scores a goal, great, we'll all be happy. But he offers so much more defensively than he does offensively, and that's why I think Jim starts him all the time. Is just because what he offers defensively, and he leads the team in pressures. And It's hard to replace what Brendan Aronson brought to the team last season, and I'm seeing more and more people talk about this on social media where, look, yeah, Brendan didn't have the goals or the assists that he has right now for Salzburg or the national team, but a lot of his game was the transition from defense to midfield to the press that he had. And we really don't have anybody on the team other than Leon Flock that's close to what Brendan's doing. If you guys remember, a couple episodes ago, I did the comparison to the pressing numbers from 2020 to 2021. So if you guys want to have a listen, if you haven't listened to that, go ahead, check out that episode. I appreciate everybody that listened to that episode. But just going back to the game, it's really happy to see Kacper get onto the score sheet, especially score twice. And we will talk about the whole penalty mishap, misfit, whatever you want to call it, argument between Sergio and Kacper. Leads the team now with 8 goals. And Jim says it all the time that towards the end of the season, that's when you want to be peaking. And with 10 games left going forward, I think if Kacper can give us 6 or 7 more goals, he continues to get hot, he'll be a handful for teams going forward. And at the same time, it's not just Kacper, it's all of our strikers. They're all streaky. And that's just the Union. That's been the history of the Union where, the Union strikers of the past, they've had their hot moments where you can go ahead and look at McInerney, how hot he was at times. Look, if you go ahead and listen to the old episodes for the Trivia podcast where I talked about some of his numbers in the summertime, compared it to the second half of the season where he completely fell off the face of the earth. You guys are now remembering those bad moments by McInerney, and you guys are like, oh man, why are you bringing up these terrible moments from McInerney? It's just the Union way where the strikers, when they're hot, they're super hot. But then when they're cold, oh man, they're ice cold. So if Kacper can get 6 or 7 more goals in the last 10 games, I think people would definitely lay off his back. Maybe, this goal, not only just a goal, he scored 2 goals. And maybe that's the confidence that he needed going forward. You saw the emotion on his face, the emotion from his teammates once he got that first goal. They were all super excited for him. And then he scores the second goal with the penalty. And yeah, strikers love scoring goals. And for Kacper to get 2 goals after, it's been almost 2 months, 2 months exactly, something like that. It's a long time to go without scoring a goal. And Kacper got 2 against Orlando City, who we love scoring against. So love to see Kacper get onto the score sheet. But look, just overall, I thought the team worked really well defensively. They did a good job to really limit any damage from Orlando City. And the only thing that you can complain about in this game was Huyn scoring that goal off of Kai Wagner, who got caught flat-footed, who I guess was respecting Huyn's pace, because he was a pacey guy getting up and down the flank for Orlando City. So Kai, I guess, was like, oh, this cross is not going to do anything with this cross. Should have been tighter and had a free header. And Andre Blake, nothing you could do about it. But after that, the Union answered right away and scored a goal. And, Orlando City thought they were in that game. As soon as they scored that first goal, they're like, okay, this is exactly what we want. We want all the momentum to come our way. And it did not. The Union said, okay, look, we're not going to blow another lead at home. We just blew this lead. We need to go ahead and get another goal. And it's what they did with Kacper. But overall, 3 massive points for the Union, and I can't complain about it. Sergio Santos, not the whole penalty situation yet. I just thought that his pace was so devastating. And again, he just shows why he's so important to this team with his pace. And this team can play those long balls like we saw Jack Elliott did to Sergio. And Sergio was able to get to that ball because of his pace. And it happened a couple more times in this game. And it happens pretty much at least once a game when Sergio Santos is either starting or if he's coming off the bench. I do like when Sergio starts, but I do also like when he comes off the bench because of the pace. Look, you saw he changed the game when he came off the bench against Orlando City. And then you go back to the CCL game. It's like, man, if we would have had Sergio Santos in that game against Club America, what could have happened? What could have happened if Club America went down to 10 men after they fouled us in the box and Jamiro missed a penalty? What could have happened with that pace? Who knows? But you saw as soon as Sergio Santos came into the game, he opened up that defense of Orlando City, and it's exactly what Montreal did last game against Orlando City, where they got behind the back line of Orlando City super easily. And as soon as we put in Sergio Santos, he got beyond that back line pretty easily. Corey Burke had his moments where he got beyond the back line of Orlando City. They're not a good team defensively, and if I would have recorded a podcast for my keys to the game, how to beat Orlando City, it was definitely key number one to get behind the defense for Orlando City. And you saw how easy it was in this game. The defense between Carlos Schlegel and Janssen, it was shaky at times. Definitely shaky. I mean, they have the moments throughout the season where they look like solid MLS defenders. I wouldn't put them up there as the best of the best in MLS, but they're definitely better than some teams in MLS. But the one thing you've seen the last couple of weeks with Orlando City is, man, just teams are figuring out how to get in behind these guys, and Orlando City has no answer for that. And as soon as Sergio comes onto the field, gets behind those guys super easily. And look, if the Union can find ways to utilize Sergio Santos' pace more, help Sergio Santos with his passing ability, man, that dude can rack up a lot of assists and cause a lot of havoc in this league. If he can figure out how to finish the ball, if he can figure out how to get his passing a little bit better. Now, I guess at the same time, too, if Sergio Santos was good at doing that, then would Sergio Santos have left Chile and came to MLS? Probably not. He would probably be in Europe someplace if he could finish better, if he could pass better than what he showed that he's capable of doing. Because look, teams love pacey strikers. Sergio Santos has that down, but if he could finish better, if he could, utilize his passing a little bit better, this dude would be the best striker on the team. I have no doubt about it. Again, just going back to older episodes, when I did my preview episode, I said Sergio Santos will lead this team in goals. He can lead this team in goals. I think I said he would lead the team in 17 goals this season. It would take a miracle for him to get that many goals this season. But, man, if this dude can just stay healthy, if he can finish, there's no reason, in my opinion, why he can't be a 15-plus striker in this league for this team. Dude gets plenty of opportunities from this team because of his pace. So definitely want to see the Union utilize his pace more. And Jim Curtin was asked about, how did you think Sergio Santos, Kacper Przyblko, Jamiro, Monteiro, and Gonzalez played? Because realistically, that's your four best players. You want to get them clicking, and this is what Jim Curtin had to say about that.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun to see that. I thought Daniel came in and gave us an impact. Sergio, obviously, with his speed to get in behind, stretches the game. I thought Miro worked so hard tonight on both sides of the ball. Again, we didn't play perfect soccer. You saw, some turnovers and mistakes from the whole group, but at the same time now, when you have that quality on the field in transition, when now Orlando's pushing for a goal, and we have a lead, it opens up some spaces in behind, and you could see our guys start to exploit that and do a good job. So, look, Jonathan, we need in the final 10 games, you not to oversimplify things, but you need your best players to be your best players, and those guys are the ones that need to carry the load. And the hope is that we can come together at the right time in these final 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, those guys are your four best players, I would say. Definitely offensively, and it's why you brought in Daniel Gonzalez to create space. Jamiro Monteiro is good at creating space. You have these two guys on the field so they can supply balls to Sergio Santos, to Kacper Przyblko. Yes, Daniel Gonzalez shown when he was playing with the national team, when he was playing in the league in Hungary, where he could score a ton of goals. And so if the Union can get all four of those guys clicking, especially this time of the season, where if they can all click, all contribute to carry this team into the playoffs, into a second or third spot, and they continue with that, yeah, a lot of teams definitely wouldn't want to see the Union in the playoffs. And everybody knows what they bring defensively. They have one of the best defenses in MLS. Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott are two of the best center backs in the league. Kai Wagner, in my opinion, nobody can change my mind, is the best left back in MLS. He has been the last couple seasons, in my opinion. Bizo offers you so much offensively. Defensively, I thought he played well against Orlando City. Ali came back and helped him out too at times defensively. And look, a lot of us the last few weeks have talked about how Paizo and Glesnes on the right side of the field, they're a liability at times defensively, but against Orlando City, there was nothing that stood out to me that caused me to question their abilities defensively. And that's what you want to see going forward from them in the back. And like Jim said, you want to see these four guys, Sergio Santos, Kacper, Jamiro, Monteiro, and Daniel Gonzalez clicking. It's fun watching these four guys on the field. And I do want to see Jamiro play on the left side of the diamond. I do want to see Daniel Gonzalez play at the 10. I do want to see Daniel Gonzalez and Jamiro Monteiro interchanging throughout the game like we've seen in the past with Brendan Aronson and Jamiro Monteiro. Because I think that's when the Union are going to be at their best. I think, in my opinion, I think that is when Daniel Gonzalez is going to be at his best, when he's making late runs into the box. Where he's good at timing those runs. He's good at finding space with his eyes. He's good at looking at, okay, where his teammates should be, passing the ball into space, and he's just good at running into space. Now, I know you're like, oh, man, he should have been on side for the fourth goal, and he wasn't on one side, but at least he was able to find that space, and he's an intelligent player, and you can tell that every time he steps onto this field. And I know some fans don't think that he is, but you can see that he's thinking the right things, and it's only a matter of time. The more that him and Jamiro play together, the more that Kacper and Sergio and those two guys play together, I think that we're going to see a lot of good things happen between these four guys. So, yeah, you definitely want to have your four best players out on the field, and offensively, in my opinion, those are definitely our four best players offensively. Now, a lot of people were talking about, why wasn't Davo included in the squad against Orlando City? And that was my first thought, too, when I saw the lineup, was, okay, why isn't Davo on the bench? The only striker you had on the bench was Daniel Gonzalez, even though he says he's more of an 8 than he is a 10. And he's definitely not a striker, he doesn't think, even though he's played there. And it's super weird because you sign this guy on loan with the option to buy him. And so you would think that you would want to play him as much as you can to see how he fits into the squad. Because I've said it before, you guys know it, that practice isn't the same as an actual game. And so you might look great in practice, but it might not transition to a game. You might be terrible in practice, but you play well in games. You know, some players react differently. And so Jim Curtin sees Davo every day in practice. He knows more than us because he's around Davo all the time. But I do wish that Jim would have said something yesterday in his press conference. I wish somebody would have asked Jim Curtin, okay, why wasn't Davo included? I definitely would have asked if I wasn't in the stadium. But I guess to all the journalists that were at his pregame, postgame press conference, they were all like, okay, well, the press conference only went on for like 4 minutes, 30 seconds, I think it was. So I don't think people were able to ask as many questions as they wanted to. I think the Union were doing a lot with childhood cancer. If you guys didn't go to the game, it was awesome seeing those kids come out to the field and the Riverend put on masks and everything, and just seeing the face of those kids, like super happy seeing superheroes out on the field, looking into the stands, watching all these fans wearing superhero masks. Like, they walked by and they probably looked at us and were like, okay, look, they look like regular humans. And then they turn around from half field and they're like, what? They all have superhero masks on and everything. So I think the press conference was probably short because the Union were doing stuff with them after the game. They were definitely signing autographs, taking pictures after the game on the field. But I think they were doing more stuff after the game. I'm not sure about that. That's why I think the press conference was short. But nonetheless, nobody asked the question, and somebody I wish would have asked it, but it wasn't asked. And look, all we can do, all the fans can do is speculate, and sometimes that's not what we want to do. We want answers right away. And in my opinion, my whole thinking behind the Davo situation is that the Union really didn't want Davo. That Ernst knew he needed a striker in here during the summer months into the months heading into the playoffs, because he knew Corey Burke was going to be missing. He was going to be in and out with the squad because he would be away with World Cup qualifiers with Jamaica. Ernst probably tried for some targets, for some other targets, but he wasn't able to get them in, so they settled in for Davo. Now, we won't know who the Union had on their short list. It's not like, I forget what year it was, when a fan took a picture of the Union board, and it had who was it? John Terry, Zlatan was at the top of the list, that the Union had discovery rights on these guys. So, yeah, the Union of now, we don't see that type of stuff because the Union are really good at keeping it all shush. They're not going to leave it out there in the open for people to say, oh, yeah, look, we have discovery rights on this player. Like, the Union, if they really want to, they can sign Zlatan because they somehow discovered him first, even though every single team in MLS knows who Zlatan is. So, yeah, discovery rights in MLS, I don't understand that, but, that's the MLSism. The all tam, gam, jam, yam, all the different terminologies in MLS. So I just think that Ernst Tenner wasn't able to get his true target in here. And I think that's why we saw the Union go for a loan instead of buying Davo to see, okay, look, we're not obligated to buy him. If he doesn't fit into how the Union play, if he doesn't practice well with the Union, then we're just not going to buy him. And yeah, you can't say how he's going to play on the field because dude's only played once this season against New England, came off the bench. But if you guys remember, back in July, I believe it was, the Union were linked with Palmeiras striker Gabriel Silva. Apparently, the Union were about to have a deal for $2.5 million accepted by Palmeiras, but the Brazilian papers were reporting that the Union at the last second backed out on the deal. And a couple of days after the whole Silva situation, the Union were linked with Davo. And I think, July was so long ago. I think I remember reading people in Brazil saying the Union backed out of the deal because they didn't agree with Palmeiras' sell-on clause that they included into the deal. Apparently, it was too high for the Union's liking, so they went in another direction. But either way, I just don't think Davo was the guy that the Union wanted. Maybe Silva was the guy that the Union wanted all along, because MLS people were reporting that the Union were submitting a $2.5 million offer, that it was accepted. But then I'm pretty sure I remember reading that at the last second, Palmeiras said that, yeah, we want to add a high sell-on clause, and the Union were like, yeah, no, we don't agree to that, and in negotiations. So I think that Ernst Tenner probably had his eyes set on some other guys, and teams weren't willing to part with their strikers, or maybe they wanted more money from the Union, and Ernst Tenner was like, nah, you're not going to rip me off because you guys know that we sold Mark McKenzie and Brendan Aronson. You guys know we have money to spend, and we're not going to buy a player for your crazy amount of money, because most teams were desperate for money. They needed money, and teams weren't going to sell just to sell. They wanted to make a profit. And Ernst Tenner was like, no, I'm not going to let the Union get ripped off. And so they went with Davo on a loan deal with an option to buy. So it will be interesting to see the last 10 games, how many more times Davo won't be on the team lineup. Who knows if Davo even gets to start? We shall see. I wanted him to start against New England. He did not. At least he came on for a couple minutes, right? Looked promising, but didn't play enough for us to make really any judgment on Davo. But yeah, that's just my whole thinking why Davo wasn't included. The whole situation with Davo is because he isn't the guy. He isn't the guy that the Union wanted. Ernst Tenner knew that we needed a striker, so it was better to get a striker in here than not a striker at all. So they went with Davo, and it is what it is. Now, I do want to go and talk about the Kacper Przyblko, Sergio Santos penalty situation. Now, I'm sure this probably reminded people of the whole Alberg, CJ Sapong situation when they fought over the penalty, and that was pretty much it for Alberg after that situation. I don't think that it's going to be it for Kacper or Sergio Santos because of that penalty situation. Sergio Santos, he obviously won the penalty, And apparently, Sergio Santos was really, 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 really angry at Kacper Przyblko. I wasn't paying attention to this situation at all. I was just paying attention to the big screen, not paying attention to what Sergio Santos was doing. All I saw was Sergio Santos had the ball taken away from Kacper Przyblko, and then I didn't pay attention anymore. People were saying Sergio Santos was complaining to the staff about how he wanted to take the penalty. I didn't see it. Maybe it did happen. I'm only speaking for what I saw. And Kacper puts the penalty away. But look, Jim Curtin said a few weeks ago that the team, they have a designated penalty taker before the game. They say, okay, this is who's going to take the penalty taker. Now, I'm not sure if Kacper was the designated penalty taker or not. Thank goodness Kacper scored that penalty, because if he wouldn't have scored that penalty, yeah, can you imagine the scenes then with Sergio Santos and Kacper? Sergio would have been like, oh, yeah, I would score that for sure. Well, now we don't have to think about that because Kacper did score. But let's also remember that we've seen Jamiro Monteiro, we've seen Kacper, we've seen Sergio Santos. All of those guys we have seen miss from the penalty spot in the past. So there is no guarantee that Sergio Santos would have scored the penalty if he would have taken it. But either way, like I said earlier, Kacper got 2 goals. I think that is really, really good for his confidence. And I think Sergio Santos, when I was talking about his pace, I think he'll continue to get his chances from open field. I think he will get a couple goals this season. And I don't know, maybe the next penalty, they'll give it to Sergio Santos. Maybe he will be the designated penalty taker. Not sure. Jim Curtin didn't talk about it at all in his press conference, and I feel like if it was an issue, Jim probably would have brought it up. I feel like a journalist would have brought it up if it was a bigger issue than what fans on social media were making it out to be. And I do want to say that I honestly don't have a problem with a set penalty taker. I'm also not like, I don't have a problem whoever draws the foul that they take the penalty. I don't have a problem with that. So the Union, Jim Curtin said a couple weeks ago that before the games start, they have a designated penalty taker, and if it was Kacper, then I'm all for it. Now, I guess if Kacper wasn't the designated penalty taker, then yeah, maybe I do have an issue with that. But I did say I was going to complain, so I'm going to complain about this situation. I'm going to complain about Blunder of the Week, and then we'll try to wrap it up with some more positive news for this episode. So the number one thing I want to complain about is just fans on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Reddit, calling out the River End, calling out the Sons of Ben, calling out the Tifos, because it's been going on for the last couple of weeks. And people are complaining about the lack of noise from, our Tifos are lacking. They're not as good as they were last year or the year before that. Yeah, and honestly, it's starting to become quite annoying hearing people complain about that. And I've always been a firm believer, if you want something done, if you want something changed / fixed, then why don't you do it yourself? It's not going to get done with you complaining about it. If you really want something done bad enough, then why not do it yourself? And why not come out and help? And the whole Tifo situation, I'll talk about that first, is there is literally one person making Tifo, and that's Bros. And I'm sure he would be more than happy to have people come out during the week and help him paint the Tifo, help him get the Tifo ready. But you know what? It's hard work. And that's exactly why people don't want to come out. They don't want to drive out to Chester the middle of the week and help paint Tifo because it's an inconvenience to them. People don't want to help paint Tifo before the game. People don't want to do this. People don't want to do that. But yeah, they have no problem complaining about, Bros isn't doing this, Bros isn't doing that. It's literally one person doing Tifo. And watching those guys paint that stuff, watching Bros paint it in the parking lot, leaving the stadium, going before games, watching them put the final touches on Tifo. I understand why people don't want to go and do it, but you have such an issue with Tifo. Why not volunteer your time? Problem solved, right? And like I said, I'm sure he would be more than happy to have people come out and help him paint Tifo. But I get it. It's hard work, and people don't want to do hard work. They want to go there and watch the game. That's fine. Nobody's saying you have to help out, but why are you complaining about Tifo if you don't want to help out? Now, look, about the whole noise situation, my seats, I always sit in 138. I've sat in 136. I've sat in 137 before. And I've heard plenty of noise coming out of those sections as well as 138. And yeah, it's an issue. And it's been an issue for some time now with the stub hubbers, where people are buying tickets to sit in the river end, and they're buying those tickets because they're the cheapest tickets. And do I think something needs to be done about that? Yeah, absolutely. What changes that? I'm not sure. I mean, when you buy tickets to sit in the river end, it says, yeah, this is the supporter section. You stand for 90 minutes. You don't wear red. You chant for 90 minutes. And if you can't do any of that stuff, then don't come here in the river end. And I remember my first game in 2019 where my buddy was like, yeah, I want to sit there. Like, this is what soccer's all about, sitting in the river end, chanting, standing up the whole game. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that. That's soccer to me. But I'm like, I don't want to go here and like act like I'm singing, not make any noise because I don't know the lyrics of songs. So we decided, okay, once we learn the lyrics, once we learn the chants, then we'll go sit in the river end. And that's exactly what we did. Now, not saying that you have to do it the way that I did it. You go ahead for your very first game ever at the Union, sit in the river end. The songs are so simple. And people always complain, oh, it's always the same old songs. And, well, if you know that the songs have been around forever, the songs are really easy to pick up on. If you know the songs have been around for so long, then why aren't you singing the songs with us? Why aren't you sitting in the river end if you want more noise? Come and sit in the river end and make more noise, because if you think it's lacking, if you think there's no noise coming out of there. If you know the songs, why aren't you singing it in your seats? Oh, because this isn't where you act like a supporter. This isn't the supporter section. People are just sitting quiet. This is the family section, so I'm not going to make noise. I'm not going to sing songs. Then why are you complaining? Why are you complaining? Look, people talk about their bad experiences with the leadership with the Sons of Ben. And me personally, I've never had an issue with anyone, and I'm not sure if that's because I do a podcast about the team. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think that's the reason why I haven't had an issue with people. But I do know, if you have an issue, if you have an idea, that they are more than willing to take that idea. Now, I know I've seen people say, oh, I've talked to them and they've shooed me away. They've basically told me to screw off. Well, maybe go to somebody else. I don't know what to tell you. The people that I've talked to, they're more than willing to sit down, hear your idea, have you DM them on social media with an idea. And look, we tried a new chant on Sunday, and people didn't really get behind it. And the only thing that I would complain about the chant is that we probably should have done it more than once so people could learn the lyrics. But that's the only thing that I would complain about. And look, like I said, I just don't understand the point of people complaining if they don't plan on helping out at all, if they don't want to sing, if they don't want to chant, even though they know the chants, even though they know the songs. They say, oh, well, I would help out, but I can't hear you guys from where I'm at. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's true depending on where you're sitting in the stadium, but the people that are sitting close to the river end, I'm sure you guys can definitely hear the chants. And I thought I listened to the game today on my lunch break, and I'm like, we sounded loud on the broadcast, so I don't know why people were like, oh, I couldn't hear you guys. Sounded fine. I could tell what we were singing. Now, maybe that's because I know the songs that we sing. Could hear Keystone State Ultra is fine. I don't know any lyrics to any of their songs, but I could definitely hear them singing their songs. So I'm not sure why people complaining, oh, on the broadcast I couldn't hear people, when I clearly heard the Sons of Ben and Keystone State Ultras. And I feel like more times than not, that is the case, that you can hear both groups. But look, people want an intimidating atmosphere. They want Subaru Park to be as loud as possible. But it literally takes every single person in that stadium. Look, Keystone started something so simple The sha-la-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la, hey, Philadelphia, you. If you remember in 2019, where was it 2019? Wow, now, was it that long ago? Had to be 2019. Had to be, right? It was 2019 when they did that chant. And it pretty much went around the whole stadium. And people were like, oh, this is awesome. It's one, an easy chant to get behind. But two, the one thing I noticed is people get more passionate when this team's winning, when the Union score a goal. And it's like, you want to make noise, find ways to help out. That's really pretty much all I can say. Maybe people that are listening to the podcast, maybe you're not one of the complainers. Maybe you are. Just something to think about. Look, people are doing the best that they can. Yes, stub hubbers destroy the atmosphere in the river end. You try to sing for those guys that are having their hands crossed, their arms crossed, or they're not singing at all. People definitely try to make up for that, but at the end of the day, look, when you buy those tickets, you know what's required of you in the river end. So if you don't want to do that stuff, then why are you sitting in there? Because the tickets are cheap? It's exactly why people are sitting there. So that is point number one that I wanted to complain about. Point number two that I want to complain about is blunder of the week. So, of course, you guys know blunder of the week is going to go to the fans of Club America. Club America fans, they completely trashed the parking lots in Subaru Parks with empty beer bottles, trash thrown everywhere. I saw stuff on social media where people said that Club America fans spat on other fans' faces, that Club America fans were peeing in the stands, fans rushed the field after the game. So, yeah, all those guys get blunder of the week. But most importantly, the people that get blunder of the week are the people who killed, unbelievable, another Club America fan and injured other Club America fans at Pat's after the game in Philadelphia at 2 a.m., I think it was. I mean, Club America violence, fan-on-fan violence, it's not okay. Why? I'm sure we won't get answers for a while until they catch these people and the FBI interviews them. Okay, why'd you do that? So I'm hoping eventually we do get information on why it happened, but nonetheless, somebody lost their life. For what? A soccer game? Like, come on now. You trash your soccer stadium because you can? You peed on the stands because you can? You spit in people's faces because you can? It's not okay. And as much as I love the atmosphere by the Club America supporters, by the Sons of Ben, by Keystone State, all of that goes out the window when everything I just mentioned happens. And me personally, I didn't have an issue with anybody. Felt safe going into the stadium, leaving the stadium. But for the Union fans that might have had issues, hopefully you guys are okay. Hopefully it didn't discourage you guys from ever coming to a Union game again. I knew it was going to be a crazy atmosphere because, look, Club America fans, people on social media, Jim Curtin, they've been trying to tell you guys that they're like New York Yankee fans. They're like Pittsburgh Steelers fans. There's tons of these guys everywhere. They're not just from Mexico. They're not just from this place, that place. They come from all over. And I do actually want to play a situation for you guys. I meant to play it earlier, so I'm glad that I remembered it. But Jim Curtin did talk about that atmosphere with the Club America fans.
Well, the atmosphere was incredible. Again, and you hear the stories and you have different little anecdotes that come back. And there was groups that came from Tennessee. There was groups that came from Texas. On my way out of the stadium, there was a poor family that actually was stranded on the other side of the road in Chester that I actually picked up and took home and dropped off at their hotel in the city. They were from New York, and hearing their story about how their dream was to just watch Club America live, and they never got the opportunity to do it. So, again, that fan base that comes up over 105 years of now, just time and love of a club and having pride and the Mexican fans, to their credit, are some of the most passionate, happy, fun, entertaining people in a stadium that you can be around.
So look, I go ahead and do a segment for Blunder of the Week. Why can't I do a segment for the good things that happen in soccer? Jim Curtin went out of his way to give Club America fans a ride back into Center City, back to the hotel. I mean, you gotta love the guy, right? It's a great moment by Jim Curtin. And look, people complain about Jim Curtin out, Jim Curtin this, and look, being a good person, being a good human doesn't mean that you're going to be a good coach, doesn't mean that you should continue to coach the team. I agree with all that. But the thing I think I love about Jim Curtin the most is he's a Philadelphia guy. He gets it. He gets what it's like to be from Philadelphia. He gets wanting Philadelphia teams to win. Look, yes, he's the head coach for the Philadelphia Union, but he genuinely wants the Philadelphia Union to win because he's from Philadelphia. And not many teams in the world, it doesn't matter what sport it is, have a head coach from the same city coaching them. And I think to me that's so special. And so for all the people that are saying, oh, Jim Curtin out, Jim Curtin this, well, I think no matter how long Jim Curtin is here, I think we should just enjoy the moment that we have a coach that's from Philadelphia that can relate to so many of you guys because he's from the same place. He's been to the same restaurants. He's grown up in the same city as you guys. I don't know what it's like to be from Philadelphia. I'm not from Philadelphia. I understand the whole mentality is like nitty gritty, hard working people, hard working sports teams. You know what you're going to get when you go to a Flyers game. You know how the Flyers are going to play. They're going to rough you up. You know what you're going to get from the Eagles. You know what you're going to get from the Phillies. So, like I said, not many teams, not many people are lucky to have a head coach be from the same town as that team. And I think that's something that Philadelphia Union fans, I think that's something that we take for granted, where this guy knows how to identify with the fans. And whoever the next head coach is, whenever Jim Curtin leaves, who's to say that he's going to be able to relate with the fans, relate with the people from Philadelphia? Yeah, living there, he might adapt to the situation, adapt to Philadelphia, but he isn't Philly. He's no Jim Curtin. So I think that's something that, you know, all these people that are saying Jim Curtin out, that want Jim Curtin out because we hadn't have been in the best of form. You know, just think about those little things, like we might not ever get another manager from Philadelphia coaching the Philadelphia Union after Jim Curtin. Like I said, I mean, this guy, I think they're probably nobody more than Jim Curtin that wants the Philadelphia Union to win other than Jim Curtin. I mean, you have your diehards that want this team to win, but Jim Curtin's coaching the Philadelphia Union. He's responsible for picking the lineup, picking the team, and he knows that he has the responsibility to help this team get the win. So, I don't know. It's just something I think fans should think about before they say Jim Curtin out, Jim Curtin this. I think his time's up, so on. Where he lives and dies, Philadelphia, and just enjoy the moment that we have Jim Curtin, and the good and the bad. This guy, at the end of the day, is going to go down as a club legend because he brought us our first trophy, came through the academy, seen Brendan Aronson, Anthony Fontana, Matt Real, Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty, these guys at such a young age, growing up through the academy, being around these guys at such a young age and watching them play for the first team, coaching them for the first team. Look, there's a guy who wanted to play for the Philadelphia Union in 2010. And the union said, yeah, no, we don't want you. We don't think you're good enough for the first team. And so what does Jim Curtin do? He go ahead and says, okay, well, if I can't play for you guys, I'm going to get involved one way or another with this team. And works his way up from the academy, coaching little kids to become the first team manager. So just something to think about before you say Jim Curtin out. But the last thing I want to get to is, like I talked about earlier, just what things look like in the playoffs. So you have New England in first place with 54 points. They have 8 games left. You have Nashville in second place with 41 points. They have 10 games left. You have New York City with 38 points with 10 games left. Orlando City with 38 points, 9 games left. You have Montreal with 37 points, 9 games left in fifth place. You have Atlanta United in sixth place with 9 games left at 36 points. And then in seventh place, the last playoff spot, you have the Philadelphia Union with 35 points, 10 games left. Now go ahead and just talk about these teams quickly. New England, you look at their record, 17 wins, 4 losses, 5 draws. Like I said, they have 8 games left. They have 4 away games. The next game is at Chicago. Then they have Orlando City at home. Then they go to Montreal. Then they have Chicago at home. Then they have back-to-back away games at DC United, at Orlando City. And then they finish the season with back-to-back home games against the Colorado Rapids, which will not be an easy game at all for the Revs. And then you have Inter Miami. And you go ahead and look at their record away and then at home. They have 7 wins, 3 losses, 3 draws away. They have 10 wins at home, 1 loss, 2 draws at home. Nobody, in my opinion, is catching New England unless something crazy happens, which, if New England completely collapsed, oh, God. Can you imagine what the fans in New England would be saying to see that hard of a collapse where they're in the driver's seat? So I don't think it's going to happen. That is what New England's schedule looks like the rest of the way. And like I said, 4 home games, 4 away games. Next is Nashville. They have 10 wins, 3 losses, 11 draws, which, like I said, is good for 41 points. 10 games left. Now, if you look, they have 7 away games compared to 3 home games left for the season. Back-to-back away games at Inter Miami and Chicago. They have Orlando City at home. Then again, back-to-back away games at New York City and at DC United. Then they come home again. And then they go on a 3-game away trip again at Philadelphia Union, at Cincinnati, at Orlando City. And then they end the season with New York Red Bulls at home, away from Nissan Stadium. They are 2 wins, 3 losses, 5 draws away. 8 wins, 0 losses, 6 draws away from home. And having 7 games away from home out of the last 10 games, I think we can definitely see Nashville drop a lot of points, and they sit in second place right now. And it's very, very possible that Nashville drops a lot of points where at the end of the season, they won't sit in second place. So, like I said, their record, 2 wins on the road, 3 losses, 5 draws. They find a way to get draws, but for Nashville to stay in second place, they're going to have to get 3 points in a couple of these games on the road if they want to stay in second place. So Nashville definitely does not have the easiest schedule in the last 10 games of the season. In third place, New York City, 11 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws. Like I said, good for 38 points. They also have 10 games remaining. They have 5 away games, 5 home games left. So the next game is at New York Red Bulls. Then they play the Red Bulls a game again, this time at home. Then they go away to Chicago. And then they have Nashville at home. Then they go on back-to-back away trips at New York Red Bulls, at Atlanta United. Then they have back-to-back home games against DC United and Chicago. Then they go down to Florida to play Inter Miami, and they end the season against us on decision day, the Philadelphia Union. New York City, they have 3 wins, 6 losses, 3 draws away from home. They're 8-2-2 at home. And so I don't think that's a terrible schedule right there. I mean, look, they played the Red Bulls 3 times, and the Red Bulls aren't in the playoffs. Who knows if they make the playoffs, but New York City, more times than not, they pick up easy points against the Red Bulls. So if they can stack 12 out of 12 points against the Red Bulls right there, 9 out of 9 points right there against the Red Bulls, yeah, that will go a long way for New York City right there. Orlando City, they have 10 wins, 7 losses, and 8 draws, which is good for 38 points. They have 9 games left, which they have 5 5 away games, back-to-back road trips against New England at Nashville. Like we said, Nashville does not lose at home. They have not lost a single game at home this season. Orlando City could definitely drop a lot of points here. Then they come home, play DC United, and then they are away at Cincinnati. Then they have back-to-back home games against Montreal and New England. And then they are away at the Columbus Crew. And then they come home again to Nashville, and then they end the season at Montreal. They are 3-5-4 away from home, 7 wins, 2 losses, 4 draws at home. Orlando City, I definitely see them dropping a lot of points here, especially on the road, where if you look from the teams in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, their records on the road are almost identical. So for teams to really finish in that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot, they've got to get results. They've got to win games on the road. Montreal in 5th place, 10 wins, 8 losses, 7 draws, 37 points. They have 9 games left. They have 4 away games left. They go to Columbus coming up away. They have New England, Atlanta, and the Philadelphia Union for 3 straight home games. Then they have 3 straight road games at Orlando City, at Toronto, at New York Red Bulls. And then they end the season with Houston Dynamo and Orlando City at home. They have 3 wins, 6 losses, 4 draws away, 7-2-3 at home. And yeah, it's pretty crucial to have 3 straight away games away from home, where that could potentially make or break Montreal getting into the playoffs if they don't pick up results at Orlando, at Toronto, at New York Red Bulls. So not the easiest of schedules right there for Montreal. 6th place Atlanta United, who I can't wait to talk about this game this Saturday for Atlanta United, because the form these guys have been on as of late, man, it's been incredible to see what they look like the last time the Union played them to what they are now. They are in 6th place, 9 wins, 7 losses, 9 draws, which is good for 36 points. They have 9 games left, and out of those 9 games, they are on the road for 5 of them. So they play us this Saturday in Philadelphia, and then they play Inter Miami. Then they have back-to-back away games in Canada, at Montreal, at Toronto, and then they have 3 straight home games against New York City, Inter Miami, and Toronto, and then leave the season on back-to-back road games against New York Red Bulls and Cincinnati. Now, look, Cincinnati is not the hardest of opponents to end the season on, but again, that's pretty brutal to end the season on back-to-back road games and then to go to Canada for back-to-back weeks. It's pretty tough for Atlanta, where they're 2 wins, 4 losses, 6 draws away from home, 7 wins, 3 losses, 3 draws at home, where 5 out of the 9 games are on the road. You go to Canada back-to-back, you end the season in back-to-back away games. Not the easiest of schedules there for Atlanta United. And then you come to the Philadelphia Union. We have 9 wins, 7 losses, 8 draws, 35 points, 10 games left. Like I just said, Atlanta United come to Subaru Park this Saturday. Then we go to New York Red Bulls next Wednesday. Then we have the Columbus Crew in 2 weeks on Saturday. And then we have 3 straight games at Cincinnati, at Montreal, at Minnesota. Then Nashville comes here. Then we go to Toronto. Then we have Cincinnati, and we end the season at New York City. We are 2-4-5 away from Subaru Park, where we are 7-3-3 at home. And look, we have 5 games against teams in playoff spots right now. In my opinion, we need to go 4 wins, 1 draw in our last 5 games at home this season. That would be 13 out of 15 points. We have 3 straight away games, which, in my opinion, we need 1 win and a draw, which would be good for 4 out of 9 points. Really, you probably want that win coming at Cincinnati because of how bad they are. I know last time we went to Minnesota, we won that game thanks to an Austin Trusty goal. Minnesota is a really good team at home. Montreal, they've been a good team this season, and it's not going to be easy to go into Montreal. Like I said, only 2 losses at home this season, so it's not going to be easy going in there to get a win, and let alone to try to get a point. So Montreal, it's going to be a tricky game. So definitely want to try to get that win in Cincinnati and to get the draw either in Minnesota or in Montreal. And look, the Union, they really need to go up to Toronto and get a win there, where they've only won twice this whole season at home. And so if you're counting, that is 20 out of 30 points for the Union to finish the season, which would finish the Union at 55 points, which would be the same points tally as the 2019 season. And so if you guys think everybody was so happy with the way that we finished in 2019, we had a playoff game against New York Red Bulls. We beat the New York Red Bulls. We finished in fourth place. I believe it was fourth or third, right? Third, I believe it was actually. It was third we finished. And everybody was really, really happy with that playoff win against the Red Bulls. And everybody was happy with our points total because that was, at the time, the highest points tally that we'd ever had in club history. So if we finished with 55 points this season, I would be happy. I don't know how you guys feel to get a possible 20 out of 30 points to end of the season. I think that would be really good. I think that's very doable. I think that should be the bare minimum for the Union. Is just, I don't care how you do it. You have to get 20 out of 30 points to finish the season. Will the Union do it? I don't know. We shall see. But it starts this Saturday against Atlanta United. So, like I said, hopefully I can get somebody to come on to preview that Atlanta United game. If not, I'll definitely do a preview episode myself. But if you're not following the podcast on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Check out the website, The Free Kick Podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And like I said, if you want to come on, host the podcast, let it be your show for a review episode for Atlanta or a preview episode for New York Red Bulls, hit me up and we can talk about everything you need. And would love to hear somebody else host a show for an episode. Maybe you guys listening were like, yeah, that would be cool. Maybe one of you guys listening to the show is like, yeah, maybe I would like to host the Free Kick Podcast. So if you want to do it, get in touch. I just told you guys where to find me on social media. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.